Next up we have a young man who in 2014 attended this very stage, his first speech I think. Very nervous he was, but he's moved, he's an inspiration to his peers and has gone on from strength to strength and speaks today as a member of the Scottish Youth Parliament. Please welcome to the stage, Sam Shakelton.
Hello, agus Fesker Ma Clan na Halapa. My name is Sam and I'm a 21-year-old student of Scottish and Celtic Studies from Edinburgh. And before I begin my speech, I'd like to applaud all the fantastic acts, musicians and speeches that have been on before me. So a wee round of applause for them, please. Thank you. When I stood on this stage 2 years ago in Freedom Square, we lived in a very different Scotland. We lived in a Scotland without Theresa May and Brexit. We lived in a nation mourning the hard-fought loss of the first independence referendum, but a lot has changed since then. To much of the Tory party's disdain, the Scottish people have not forgotten about the lies and deceit that was thrown at us in the independence referendum. They have not forgotten that the Tories and the Labour Party stood hand in hand like old pals as they watched our dreams of independence drain down the plug hole, or so they thought. The disastrous Brexit campaign was an international embarrassment, playing on hatred and fear to con the working class people into voting against their neighbours. Is that the kind of country that you want to live in? A country that vilifies the immigrants that do so much for us? Well, I say that is not Scotland and that is not our nation. Not a single Scottish constituency voted in favour of Brexit. The result in Scotland was a unanimous middle finger to the Tory party and the entire Westminster establishment, and that is something that we should not forget. But despite this, they still refuse to take the Scottish people into consideration. They still refuse to view us as political equals. But can we really be surprised at this? I think we all know the answer to that question. The Westminster government has never listened to the Scottish people in all the 300 years of the Union. The Celtic peoples are seen as second-class citizens in the United Kingdom, with some people even refusing to recognise the term Celtic. Whether it be the people of Ireland or Scotland, they refuse to view us as equal partners in this not-so-united kingdom. It only takes but a little look into the history of the British Empire to see where this disdain comes from towards the Celtic people. From centuries past, the people of Scotland and Ireland were persecuted, massacred and enslaved by their southern neighbours. And from the times of the clearances, when entire governments and when entire generations and communities were uprooted from their homes and massacred without but a thought, to the times of the famine in Ireland caused by the corrupt politicians of the British Empire. This is something that the Westminster elite would have us all so quickly forget. But times have changed, they say. Scotland are equal partners, they say. Well then, how do they explain the repeal bill, which gives absolutely no power to the Scottish Government and every power imaginable to Westminster? Like something out of a dystopian, tyrannical nightmare, the Tory party are taking any chance they get to seize as much power for themselves as possible. How do they explain that in only 3 general elections since 1945, Scotland's vote has made a difference? The truth is, Scotland and the United Kingdom will always be viewed as second-class citizens. Theresa May and Boris Johnson often say from their ivory towers in London that it's great to be British. But what does this mean? What is so great about this Britain that they go on about? Again, history paints a far darker picture. And if I were to stand here today and list the numerous crimes of the British Empire against every corner of this earth, I'd be standing here all day. I, for one, know that I am not speaking alone when I say I don't want anything to do with Britain and this British establishment. I am Scottish, not British. And despite the deluge of lies in the media before the independence referendum, the Scottish people came within inches of securing a historic victory, a victory that would have shaken every pundit and conman of the British Empire to their core. Your Katie Hopkins, your Piers Morgans. Now with Brexit and all that has happened in its wake, we stand poised again to make history, my friends, and the Scottish people will have their say. This speech is a direct message to Theresa May and the Tory government in Westminster. The Scottish people have not forgotten what you've done to us and the rest of the world. The Scottish people will not be made fools again, and the Scottish people cannot be ignored. The politicians in Scotland have shown their true faces, with the line between Labour and Tory becoming but a small, blurred fraction. It is time to take our future into our own hands. The Scottish nation will never be prosperous until we are independent, and the Scottish people will never be free until we are independent. Now, I'm going to end my speech, and I don't want to make it too long, and I know there's a lot of fantastic acts and speeches still to come, with a slightly altered segment, the same that I did last time. Slightly altered, more modernised version of the Declaration of Arbroath, my favourite section of it. And it is, for while 100 of us remain alive, we will not submit in the slightest measure to the domination of Westminster. It is not for honour, for riches or glory that we fight, but solely for freedom. Thank you, agus Blanach Clive Plan na Halpa. Thank you. Have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, our future is in safe hands with the youth that we have.